hours because it'll.
I
Thought
thought
it,
that was only for reboots though too.
I did
That's
too,
when
but
you
it
said
did it.
it's
I was just right in the middle of the day. Oh, YouTube is tubing.
verifying.
Yeah, my active hours are set as 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Yeah, I don't think that applies to actually installing it, which when you install graphic drivers, it does change the display and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
it does look like we are live and on the air on YouTube and Twitch. So welcome everyone to the Foolish Tech Show. It is Tuesday morning, and we're mainly here to provide you with support and answer any questions about our products and services. If you have any of those, please jump over to foolishtechshow.com. We have a IRC chat that you can join a couple different ways, and we'll be more than happy to interrupt whatever we may be talking about at the time to focus on that instead. Because otherwise, we will fill the airtime with random shop talk, and you're more than welcome to participate in that as well from the IRC chat. Just keep in mind that any opinions expressed here are those of the individual that expressed them and not of the company itself. So with that, how's everyone's Tuesday going?
Going well.
A little bit stressful, but other than that.
Well, to catch everybody up on what we were talking about at the beginning of the show, apparently Windows display driver update installed for Proctor yesterday during the middle of the day while he was doing stuff, and changed his audio defaults. So then that messed with the stream when he was trying to stream because he was expecting something to be a default, and it was changed back to what was it changed to, like a communication device? Or
It was changed to the NVIDIA high def audio.
Yeah, it'll probably be the last audio device that's installed, or it depends on the system what it changes to. But the reasoning for it is video drivers don't sound like a sound device, but they can output sound to the monitors they're connected to via HDMI or even DVI potentially. But so they've included sound capabilities for quite some time. I've noticed it though with my driver updates. It doesn't just apply to NVIDIA. It's universal. Any video driver that can output sound, any video card that can output sound, which is effectively all of them now, will be hit by this. We had made the suggestion of using the active hours feature of Windows to limit that, but I don't know if you were able to confirm whether or not you have that set.
Yeah, they were set from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
I do 8 to 8. I think that's the 12 hours is the maximum you can do on that.
But I believe that's only for restarting your system. I don't believe that's for actually installing them.
Yeah.
Which, if anybody's ever installed a video driver, you know it doesn't like just wait until it restarts to apply those settings. It applies the video driver settings during the install, so it would still mess with things and change things and screw things up.
That's one of the benefits of them having moved the video driver into user mode instead of kernel mode, and that allows it to be basically the video card driver to be stopped and started cleanly, so you can have in-place driver upgrades without really a reboot to actually have those settings come into play. Now, sometimes there's changes that do require a reboot still, and oftentimes a video driver install will request a reboot. But I think you'll note that the display, you'll see visually what happens when it shuts down the old display and brings up the new one. Your screen flickers and comes back on. So at least that part is actually happening, and that's what caused Proctor's trouble. There should be additional settings to control this. I feel there's no excuse for that, especially considering how different video drivers are from other drivers in the system, and how relatively
majorly affect what you're doing at the time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, if you can't,
I was in the middle of a meeting, sharing my screen, and I have no screens.
Mm.
It was very disruptive.
Mm. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. So this was a work related presentation, and it's a very big problem when things like that happen. And of course, I mean, do you ever want your car, let's say, to break down at a convenient time, or do you ever want your car to break down at a convenient time? Well, sure, but that never happens. It's always when you're trying to get somewhere that it breaks, and just like in that case, in your case, it ruined your evening potentially. Makes you wonder who's responsible for that in the cases where the user doesn't have control.
Michael's really into car analogies today.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Anywho, I have something about ransomware I could talk about.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
All right. So here we go. This is an article. It's not all that great. It's just making some. It's got a little podcast in there, but basically the gist of it is that ransomware is like high seas piracy these days. They're talking about how the breadth of it is 7 figures, and how it's a rising problem, and how ultimately they believe that insurance is going to get involved. Well, I thought that was very interesting, because basically, apparently, there's already insurance that covers this type of thing, but from what I understand, the deductible is so incredibly high that typically the business would be paying the ransoms up to a point when the insurance, once they got their deductible covered. So anyway, the only benefit I see for insurance coming to ransomware is there being is for the bad guys. They'll be guaranteed to get the money more often than not, with the large coffers of an insurance firm behind them.
Yeah, it does seem to encourage ransomware writers to keep doing what they're doing.
Now,
if part of the insurance requires that you have backups and things like that, maybe that will help. That's my biggest thing, is why would people fall back to insurance when they have
insurance
available to them right now?
That's a lot cheaper.
Yeah. I mean, you can get more than enough backups and store them indefinitely with the amount of money that you're paying in insurance or ransomware.
Yeah, but what if the downtime to restore your backup is going to cost you more money than paying the ransom?
There's several different types of backups you can have, and you can make it so that you have little to no downtime.
Well,
and then the other side of that too would be user education. We've talked about several times how it's not just antivirus that's going to protect your system. It's making sure that your people don't install the ransomware. Like, what was it? 75% of the ransomware comes through emails. That's users. Emails don't install themselves, so that's users causing the problem.
Every one of those cases could be prevented by the user in the sense of an email. Basically there's some gotchas here. Now, there's always been boutique insurance. There's always been cases where you're a celebrity and you have a higher than likely chance of potentially being kidnapped. There's insurance for those types of things, but they're usually tailored very specifically to the individual, and it's and there's hugely high costs involved typically. You got to read the details. Some of this is currently covered, like I said, under traditional policies. But there's a lot of problems with it, and some of the policies out there may say that only a certain type of compromise actually is covered, and so you have to look at that. And so it might be the case where, oh, well, your user opened up the email, so that's on you. They might limit it. So read the fine print. But it looks like if you find anything reasonably priced, there's going to be severe limitations to it.
But now, too, I'm
not condoning it. I'm not condoning it. Do not. I'm not suggesting anyone purchase insurance for this, but it does.
Well, I was just going back to Proctor's point about the downtime. they're already experiencing downtime from having the ransomware.
True.
So, I mean, it's not like they're going to avert downtime altogether. I suppose unlocking could be that way, but I would think that if you're going, let's say we're going the insurance route, you have to file a claim, then they have to get the stuff in Bitcoin and send it to the place, and then you get a key back. Like, that amount of downtime could easily be just recovery.
I can't see insurance companies paying ransoms. They would have to see. This is a way that it might actually be okay. If they those insurance companies then like required, like you said, that they have backups and all sorts of security measures in place before they would be covered, and you know, because ultimately then the insurance company is going to be, I mean, without having a sky high premium, they're going to be losing money with the rate of ransomware the way it is. So you know, they've got to do something to mitigate that for themselves.
Yeah, I would hate to be the person that has to be the one to call the insurance company to file that claim. Nope, you're not covered. Nope, you're not covered. And having to deal with that. Like, I mean, right now, dealing with health insurance or car insurance, it's almost impossible sometimes to get yourself covered, and that's exactly what they're there to do.
Yeah, it's a big hassle.
You, so.
Even with me and the very straightforward case that I have of you know, somebody colliding with me, it being their fault, not mine. You'd think that'd be a pretty shut and dry case. There was police documentation. There was you know, all sorts of you know, definitive evidence. And yet the process took way longer and so many phone calls and such a large amount of my time that it was very frustrating, even though, you know, it all went relatively smoothly. That was the best case scenario. And for somebody with a slightly more complicated scenario, I can only imagine, and as was the case for you guys and everything else. So insurance is a mess, and it does need to be, I think, looked at and reformed, but I don't know the solution to that. So this monitor that I talked about before, the Apple monitor, it looks like they're going to stop selling them because of all the hardware problems that have been issued. This was the same hardware problem I reported, the router being too close to networking devices and things like that.
Didn't they have a fix for that?
Yeah, and the next revision put more shielding on it, but you know, that doesn't help the stock that's currently on the shelves. There's been I thought that there was some sort of upgrade or something that made it better, but it's not a permanent fix. It's a hardware problem. So I just wanted to yell that out if anybody invested in one of those displays. Speaking of, we have often talked about surveillance and stuff here as well, but apparently in 2009, India started taking fingerprint and eye scans of individuals. Now have apparently 1.1 billion people in their database, or 99% of all their adults. And they're just talking about some of the problems in it, about verifying the information, about who has access to it, about how easy it is to cheat the system. Lots of things. You know, one of the interesting points is that, you know, it's relatively easy to steal somebody's fingerprint and eye scan, as we've discussed. It just takes a camera in the case of the eye and something as cheap as a gummy bear in the case of a fingerprint. So, you know, when governments are keeping these huge databases of people, and I'm starting to worry about healthcare.gov in that sense, and our other government-based databases, what could happen? What could go wrong? There's already huge issues where people have been basically misidentified as having died, and the nightmares that entails for individuals. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. That doesn't obviously have anything to do with malicious misuse or data verification issues. And, you know, what if somebody commits a crime and they have your iris print and other things because of issues like I just mentioned? You know, are you going to then stand trial and be potentially convicted?
Well, how much detail do you need in an iris scan?
I don't know, but they did seem to
everywhere.
imply that the cost involved in that would be a bit higher than the gummy bear cost. But
And especially with the Google AI stuff enhancing pictures, pixelated pictures, that could possibly be an issue.
yeah.
And like now, so in the future, people are gonna take pictures with their eyes closed.
Yeah, that'll work out real well.
You already have to give the peace sign backwards now. You can't have it in a picture. You have to do it backwards so that people can't get your fingerprints.
It's a scary world we live in with mass surveillance.
That's not even mass surveillance. That's just technology being more prevalent and available.
It's effectively mass surveillance, though. You're being surveilled by not only by potentially your governments and those larger things, but every person you run across has the ability to video record you, audio record you, and they're hugely 20 plus megapixel cameras on cell phones these days. I mean, that's a lot of detail. And I'm not suggesting that you should ban cameras or anything like that. I'm not barking up that tree, but you know, none of those advances have been offset by any advances in privacy. And there could be or should be advances in those areas. And I guess you could argue that there are. Why doesn't everybody just use encrypted email? But we've talked about that too. You know, it seems like it's a battle destined to be lost by individuals who value their privacy. That's a scary thought for someone like me.
Indeed. Well, speaking of that, guess who's got a new video service? Amazon now is offering a service that supports video conferencing, calls, chat, and sharing of content. Looks like they got 3 versions of it, a basic, a plus, and a pro plan. And it looks like the plus plan, you might even be able to get away with doing remote support with, because you have the ability to do remote desktop control. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Let's see how much it was. Amazon Plus is available $250 per month per user. Let's see if we got a better pricing plan on the Pro version. So it does look like the Pro version offers a whole lot more. Pricing. So $15 a month per user for the Pro version, up to 100 people. Basic is free, video calls up to 2 people, and chat in chat rooms.
Why don't you make it sound exciting?
Well, I mean, it's hard to be exciting, and
yeah,
like everybody's got a video.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a good point. But Amazon would be a perfect, you know, especially with their cloud, it would be to do that type of video processing like that. You know,
And it
kind of late
is
to the game, actually.
it is branded on the AWS platform, so
Yeah, that type of cross marketing there with that type of thing, I think is good, and it allows them to deliver something like that at a relatively good price point. But if you want to watch those videos without a wire, Qualcomm has an option, a new solution for you guys out there. This is seemingly one of the best Wi-Fi options. It combines the next generation 802.11ax chipset with more traditional Wi-Fi access. Looks like it's going to be 8x8 over the 5 gigahertz band, and 4x4 of the 2.4. Actually, was it 8x8? It might be 12x12. I'm seeing the number on that, but it's pretty high up there. They're touting some pretty advanced speeds. Now, the AX, I believe, I'm going to look into. I'm not getting the details in the AX, but it looks like one of the features of this device is the ability to combine 5 and 2.4 gigahertz channels together, so to fully take advantage of the bandwidth. So previous ones, it would be unlikely unless you literally had multiple devices connecting to. You would never actually see the throughput numbers that the routers advertise. So it was dependent upon utilizing multiple 5 gigahertz channels and 2.4 through multiple devices, but never having all that channel potentially into one device. And now there's mechanisms to do that. It could have, the AX standard could have 10 gigabits a second maximum speeds, but it works in the same frequency ranges, meaning that it's not going to have the issues where we saw when moving from 2.4 to 5 gigahertz. So usually these high-speed communication mechanisms are distance limited, and I'm not seeing that that's so much of the case here. Obviously, the closer the better in any situation, but I
mean, 5 gigahertz has a physical limitation.
Oh yeah. You're not gonna break that. So you're still gonna be, talking about 100 meters or so. But there were some other standards that were coming out that were, for very high gigabit transmissions, but very short range, not near field communication, but would be significantly less than what we were used to with 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. This doesn't appear to have that limitation, and it looks like it's adopted relatively quickly because of those advantages. Meaning that Qualcomm actually has the chip out. So wow.
But we don't have any routers to support it yet.
There's no. This is just the chip, so the routers are going to follow shortly, I would hope. So one of the things it does to increase those speeds is orthogonal frequency division multiple access. Don't really know the details on that, but previously.
What does that even mean?
So they used, it wasn't orthogonal, but they used some other advanced form of frequency. Okay, so all right, well, let's start with that.
Oh, you don't
the direction. No,
you don't even know.
Right angles. So
you don't even know. You're just reading off. So more exciting news, since you wanted something exciting, they're going to have passenger drones, human-sized quadcopters in Dubai starting this July. So you're going to be able to be transported by a drone.
So anyway, the previous ones that they had used to combine information and to make a signal travel or get more information over a signal was time division multiple access, and that basically temporally separating information being transmitted, but that's not as efficient as frequency division multiple access. And apparently, depending upon how you combine those frequencies, which is where that orthogonal or other adjectives you might stick there, it just is a basically more efficient compacting or putting more information into a smaller spot, basically.
Okay.
That's
No
the
one cares. More people
simplification.
care about the fact that you can get a drone to fly you for about a half hour up to 31 miles of range, and it's only limited to a 260-pound person in a small suitcase. And it's all going to be automated, so you just punch in your destination, strap in before takeoff, and it'll take you there through 4G wireless communication technology. Oh, and it looks like the FAA is pending approval on offering this in Nevada. So we could be seeing drones flying around Las Vegas.
Well, we'd have to go to Las Vegas to see them.
Oh, that's true. But it'll take you 689 feet off the ground. That's pretty sweet. That's going to be fun. And won't that be fun for air traffic controllers having to worry about passenger drones flying around? And looks like the IoT device era is causing even more frustration. A university experienced an attack firsthand where people infected the network's IoT devices from vending machines, light bulbs, and other things, and then attacked that network with those devices. Thought that was pretty interesting. The university said that over 5,000 smart devices had been taken over during this incident.
Yeah, I had read of that a day or two ago. Is this the first case of an organization's own devices being used? Normally, it's like the cameras are attacking somewhere else.
Yeah.
So
I think this is the first one that I've seen that the network devices were used against the network itself. Because yeah, other attacks have been used against everyone else.
yeah, but think about it. I mean, the university would be probably one of the more optimal instances of something like that, because there's a ton of kids, and every one of those kids has a cell phone, and likely in the modern era they're going to have a lot of devices as well. They're going to have maybe these security cameras, maybe printers, maybe other devices.
Yeah. But it is another case of not changing default passwords, and then even further, not having strong, unbrute force attackable regular passwords on everything else. So if you have any of those devices, change them, even if they're on your own network. Change the defaults from what they are. And I thought this was pretty interesting too. Apparently, scientists have released a huge set of exoplanet detecting observations, and they're calling for help on finding those.
They oftentimes crowdsource large amounts of data, particularly this type of thing. Anything that requires visual analysis is still hard for computers to do. And it's much faster and usually far more accurate for a human to actually interpret visual data.
Scientists themselves have already begun looking through the observations and found over 100 likely planet candidates. But you can use open source software, and they have a tutorial on that page on how to use it so that you can start finding them yourself. And that's from 61,000 individual measurements of more than 1,600 nearby stars. That is a whole lot of data. And don't watch this if you have any issues with seizures. But here's a psychedelic Hot Wheels track set up. It's pretty fun to watch. And I didn't get a chance to look at exactly what this was, but apparently there's a IBM Watson-powered voice assistant built for security pros. Provide threat data while keeping your hands free.
Okay.
It studied over 1 million security documents to brush up on the language of security, and it parses reports from sources as diverse as research papers, blogs, and incident data.
So basically, IBM's just kind of narrowing down the data sets that it's feeding into these things and offering them up to various market segments. And I'm sure they'll have one for the medical field. I'm sure they'll have one for aerospace. I'm sure, you know, any other field that could benefit from, I guess, hands-free work, possibly.
Maybe. It says it takes investigation time down from days to minutes. You spend less time interpreting info and more time working with it. But Eric has a thing in the chat here. They have an issue they're currently handling. Apparently, a school they manage recently had an inappropriate pop-up displaying XXX content, according to the computer teacher, come up on a computer lab machine while a student was on it. Okay.
I mean, that's pretty straightforward to me.
Well, I was going to say, what's the issue there? What's going on further? More detail. Need more data.
We know pop-ups just don't magically happen. Appears under miscellaneous. I'm not sure I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm not following.
Okay. So
Like,
the principal's involved, so that means that they're. Oh no, the principal.
Primary issue is,
okay.
in other words, not the principal. Michael's like, oh well, the principal's involved. Now this is serious.
Way to keep up with context there, Michael.
Oh, I see. So they're talking about filtering. I get it. So they have filtering categories of things, and so if this pop-up gets blocked, it'll block everything else in that category, and there's stuff that they want access to in that category. Well,
what are you using to filter with?
Yeah, that sounds like you're using something like OpenDNS, maybe. Is it DNS filtering?
Well, I know they're fans of Untangle. It could be Untangle's filtering.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe you've.
Well, I mean, with that, aren't you able to add blacklisted ones and add like custom categories and stuff? I guess you have to be using the premium version at least for the custom category side of it things.
Yeah. Unless in the free version there's a way to, so basically don't block miscellaneous and then just specifically block one, domain or whatever.
You may also want to report to Untangled support about that misclassification. And
Yeah, because clearly a XXX thing shouldn't be classified that broadly. Oh. Oh, so that's going to change.
yeah, it does seem like randomly generated.
There are limitations to.
I mean, I don't think that you can rely on filtering 100%. First off, so I mean, some things are always going to get through on any kind of filtering like that. And I don't think there's any software out there that you could filter sexual content like that on the screen directly. Although that would be an interesting idea, wouldn't it? Like, software on it, and then if it detected visually, it like
It slow things down. You'd basically have to run it into some big AI like Watson or Google or Amazon, and then have it do the check and then report back on whether or not it's okay. Now, that would go relatively quickly, but when somebody's browsing the web at those delays would seem like you're browsing in slow motion, I'd imagine. I don't know that there's an effective, easy way to do that.
So it came up as an alert fake button. Well, what happens if you block miscellaneous? Would it be easier to whitelist things that miscellaneous blocks?
Yeah, I think that's a better approach if that's possible.
I mean, usually in a school, you should know majority of the sites that they're accessing.
Can kids just go anywhere when they're browsing the web at school? I don't think that was.
Depends. It's been a long time since I've been in a school environment to deal with that.
Well, I mean, it's been higher education, which I imagine they allow a little bit more leeway with, but yeah.
Well, they might not know, but you should know with the list of reports for what things have been visited in the past. So yeah, no, that makes sense. That's usually how clients are, aren't they? They usually don't tell you anything until a problem comes up.
All right, yeah, so definitely take that approach.
But I would say checking the miscellaneous, seeing what gets blocked, using the data you have available through the Untangle reports as to what sites get visited, and maybe go ahead and proactively whitelist the ones that come up in the top of the list kind of thing. I don't know if there's any good way that you could do that data, but I'm sure with some Excel manipulation, you could get something easily to show you the large majority of sites which come up. And then that way you could at least kind of get started on the whitelisting side of things and see what ends up getting blocked versus not getting blocked. That would probably be the best idea and the route I would probably try to take, especially with clients that don't tell you things and don't know what they're doing. As in, like, don't know where people are going and things that are happening. I do know that filtering is probably one of the most aggravating things to do and get right. The one time that I set up filtering in a company that I worked for, the boss was like, I don't want them going anywhere, doing anything. And then I was like, all right, it's all set up and done. And then next, like, same day, probably within the hour, comes to me and like, I can't order these tickets on Ticketmaster. And I'm like, that would be something that would be blocked by the filter you just told me to put in place. So they're like, well, don't block me, block everyone else. And I'm
Oh,
like,
and block every other porn site except for the one I visit as well.
you didn't mention that. You just said block everything on the network, so that's what I did. I have not heard of this fake Mozilla button within Firefox. I'm not sure what that would be. We can do some quick research on it, though. Let's see what we come up with. And a quick check. Yeah, sure. No, I definitely understand that. My mom still works in a school system, so. And she's asking me for all kinds of crazy stuff like, hey, can you set up remote support to my computer so that I can access it at home? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure there's policies against that. I'm not seeing anything on the fake Mozilla button. Let's see if we get any more with the more refined thing. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything about that fake button or what it might be about. Or
yeah, I didn't.
But it sounds like maybe that page was using that JPEG. I guess I could search for that specific name. I didn't search.
No, that doesn't help.
The
Well, you could try.
Button, alert fake button JPEG.
Okay, well, try. I wasn't coming up with much on that, but.
Yeah.
So, you know, the only thing that I can think of that's related to maybe is, you know, fake security warnings that sometimes pop up on sites, you know, telling you, hey, you're infected or whatever. Maybe the XXX aspect of it was what got everyone's attention, of course, but maybe it wasn't the only thing that was going on at the time, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, those are the sites that I was coming across as well when I searched for those things. It doesn't seem like it's related to that. I'm thinking maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, so that's basically the same thing. Basically, security warnings that are not coming from Firefox that are claiming to be coming from Firefox.
Yeah.
And
it is possible that it was just one of the random ads on there was XXX content, and the rest of it was there could have been more than one pop-up. Like maybe they closed 2 pop-ups, but the one that they reported to you was the one that had nudity, which is what they want blocked. And in another case of them not responding or reading or telling you the full story.
Maybe the teacher should control. Like, okay, so in higher education environments, what's common these days is for the instructor, the teacher, professor, whoever is up there, you know, giving instruction to the class, they could see what's on the screens of all the students. You know, I would hope that something similar is in place in our public school system, and I would also hope that teachers take a more active role in monitoring what their kids are doing, and when the kids are supposed to be focused on.
Well, I mean, obviously they were able to see it because they saw the pop-up on the person's computer. But it does seem like
after the kid goes, "Oh my God," you know, or whatever. I'm sure.
But it could be like what they're talking about, where it was something like an alert like that, and the kid clicked on it, and then it redirected them to the explicit site. So could have been any number of things. Oh, and they do have software like that, Michael. It's just having issues of its own right now.
Yeah.
Well, I think I heard of that one.
AbTutor? I thought that was a workout program.
I think maybe it was AB Tutor, but yeah, I feel for you. Filtering things on the internet is definitely not the easiest route to go. The only way to ensure things are safe is through whitelisting only, and there's no way to be able to do that and allow access, unfettered access to the internet without someone there 24/7, like adding things to the whitelist. So it would just be hard to deal with. Yeah, and Nels is right. That would actually require the teachers to pay attention to what their students are doing. Yeah, I think I have heard of it, Sri. Let me check it out and see right now while we're looking at it. Well, my copy paste from chat does not work. Geez, Michael, are you over there playing Minesweeper?
That's not me clicking.
Oh, Proctor's playing Minesweeper?
Somebody
yeah,
else.
Minesweeper in Windows 10.
No, I think they took that out actually. That brings a good point though. Minesweeper. Yeah, they took it out.
Nice. Yeah, I think I have seen this one. Cool. Good to know that's a good program. I'll have to install it here so I can monitor what Johnny's infecting her computer.
So it's an entire school, $450. That's a good price.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I mean, considering you could have over 1,000 kids.
Yeah, not bad. Cool. Well, sorry we couldn't be of more help there, but I feel like probably your best option would be the going ahead and filtering miscellaneous and proactively whitelisting with the list of reports that you got for sites they commonly visit. And then that should at least get you started. But then go ahead and tell all the departments, not just one person, that they need to actively alert you. And is there a way in Untangle for it to send emails to the Untangle administrator if something's blocked? I seem to remember that being a feature where, like, if something got blocked, they had an option where you could email the admin and then it would send out, then it would alert you guys, and then you could remote in and add that to a whitelist. Communicating that afterwards would be a little bit harder, but well,
or you know, also too, possibly combining the filtering with Untangle with some additional filtering, like the ANS level filtering might be provide an additional layer there that could prevent you from having to, you know, individually whitelist or blacklist.
I mean, that would only add more to the blacklisting and make it even more complicated to whitelist things.
To whitelist, but for instance, it would be a situation where you could maybe turn off something that's in Untangle that's creating the difficulty and let the other thing handle it in very specific cases, possibly. I don't know. I just thought.
Yeah. Cool. Well, give us some updates on what you do end up doing with them later on. That'd be fun to hear. We are almost at our hour time limit, but I got a couple other stories we can talk about here.
I'll tell you, I find myself less exposed to harmful things with having a pie hole on my network, frankly. I think that provides some inherent security for what I'm being exposed to on sites. Because a lot of sites, when they, you know, they call it malvertising or whatever, but so an advertising will be compromised. An advertising stream that a legitimate site uses will be compromised, and that's what leads to the infections. So that's thought there as well.
That is not a bad thought. I mean, that would add additional things, but could also add more to the whitelisting fiasco that they'll have to deal with. So, but it might be worth it. Anyway, here's another seizure-inducing video, but I always find it really fun to watch professional drone pilots in a first-person view. So crazy. I could never do that with drones. And Phoenix was mentioning yesterday that his blower died and there's snow everywhere. But you can do like this guy and make your own snowboarding course. I doubt you have as much snow as he has, though. That's a lot of snow.
I don't know how I'm still in this meeting. My computer, I think, is locked up right now.
Sounds like you got proctored.
Yeah,
I was gonna say it seems a little.
Ring Central works amazingly.
Yeah, it's seemingly it can stream UDP audio traffic despite having a non-functional keyboard and a non-functional display. Huh? Go figure.
That is fun, though. No problem. Thanks for bringing it up. We always appreciate the future techs. Curious things you run into. I thought this was interesting. I didn't get a chance to try it out yet, but here's a simple password manager. I had been actually looking for something like this because I introduced my grandfather to KeePass after I found out he was using a password.txt file in his documents for all of his. Somehow he has over 300 websites and passwords. At least they're different passwords for each one, but and keeping them in a password.txt file kind of defeats it. But I was looking for something simpler because KeePass is a little bit intimidating for the uninitiated, and I thought that was kind of interesting one. It seems extremely basic and plain, so that you can just keep things that you need in it and still have some sort of encryption and security stuff to it. So. But thought it was interesting.
I think I'm trying to shut down the computer, and I'm amazed at how I'm connected.
Why are you trying to shut down the computer in the middle of the stream?
I want to see if I could recover from this.
By shutting down your computer?
He's not streaming.
Yeah,
I know he's not streaming, but he's in the stream right now, so he doesn't need to be doing anything else. He's got a laptop he can.
Oh yeah, I could see on that, I guess.
I thought this was pretty interesting. A Wack-A-Mole game made with Legos. They do some interesting things with Legos nowadays. And we mentioned an alarm clock yesterday. This one is a pretty interesting LED clock. If you're interested in clocks and time and tracking things that don't really exist. And I thought this was interesting. There's an article on here that tells you ways to keep your baggage from triggering a TSA physical search And they say the list of items that look like part of an explosive device that could trigger a TSA search. And just listen to this list and tell me, what can you actually carry? Personal electronics, hair dryers, curling irons, electric razors. Oh man, that sucks. That broke. iPods, music players, connecting cables and wires, battery chargers, shoes, especially shoe soles. Who carries just shoe soles? Books, toiletries, shampoo, soap, hair care products, paper reports, books, lotions, perfumes, and foodstuffs. What on that list can you carry? Like, what's not on that list that you can carry? Like, that pretty much eliminates everything that you would probably carry in a bag, except for clothes. So, like, the best way to stop from that is just not taking anything with you. I did find it interesting that books look like a explosive device. Kind of strange. Yeah, everything triggers the TSA search, it seems like. And it's funny because my bags, when I go through, like, I have to use like 4 different of their tubs because I have so many laptops and chargers and cables and stuff that I need to separate and spread all that stuff out just so it won't trigger them to look more into stuff. That's actually what a TSA person told me when I did get triggered for a physical bag search. He was like, yeah, you should probably separate all of this stuff and put it in separate tubs, and then you'll be fine going through it. And I was like, well, yeah, because then you won't have to physically look in the bag. It'll be all laid out there. And he's like, exactly. So that's what I've found I've had to do. Basically, I have like an entire section in my bag that's just cables and stuff. I have to take that out and kind of spread it out in the tub, and then any of the laptops I put in their own tubs, and then battery chargers go in their own tubs, and then my shoes and belt and stuff go in another tub. So pretty interesting having to deal with all that, which is why I don't do flying. If there's a way that we could travel on the road instead, I'd prefer doing that. And I think that's probably about it. I don't have anything else really interesting to show. Oh, well, this just came across the wire. Apparently, the Nokia 3310 might be coming back. A new version of the phone. And this is the borderline indestructible Nokia phone that we should all be fairly familiar with. But I thought that was pretty cool. All right, well, let's go ahead and wrap up today. We'll be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. for our Wednesday show. Again, we are mainly here to provide support and answer any questions about our products and services. If you do have any of those in the meantime, you can always contact our website or our support through the various means on our website. Otherwise, if you'd rather speak to us directly, you can join us tomorrow at 2 p.m. and we'll be more than happy to focus on that. So thanks everyone for joining us, and we will see you all tomorrow. Hope you have a great rest of your week and hope it started off fairly well. Take us on out, Proctor.